It is a strange world in which we live. Things are often not as they seem, and all sorts of horrors lurk in the dark recesses of the human imagination, and maybe even in reality. In the video today, we're taking a look at a couple of stories that will make you question where imagination ends and reality begins. When I was fairly young, around the ages of 7 to 13, my mother, my sister, and myself all moved to Quebec after my parents had a divorce. It was a healthy separation, and my mother just wanted us to be happy. I was constantly moving in and out of houses with my mother and sister. The reason we kept moving was because we were desperately trying to find a place we could actually call home that would have enough room for all of us. For context, my mother just got together with my new stepfather, who had 2 daughters of his own that were also my sisters. We wanted to have a house big enough for all of us to have our own room, so we didn't feel overwhelmed. And with how much my mum was making, it was amazing to have the homes we did. The most distinctive one that I remember though was one of the last 3 houses we lived in before I moved back to where I grew up, which was in Alberta. The house was huge. We had 2 floors, and above us were apartments where other people stayed in. There were 3 bedrooms that moved into an L shape around our massive kitchen, and down the hall was the living room, bathroom, and my parents' bedroom. But stuck between the bathroom and the hallway to my parents' bedroom was the basement door. As a kid, I was always terrified of the basement, and because we were in Quebec, it was no surprise to actually learn that the house in itself was very old. It was old enough that there was a root cellar attached to the basement that was ancient and locked up, mainly because my parents didn't want us playing around in there. The basement itself wasn't properly finished and clearly needed to be worked on, but it was a nice, cold place for the summer to hang out in. It was as large as the layout of the house, but it was almost hollow. Our washing machine and dryer were downstairs, so we couldn't avoid the basement forever. Another issue was when we first moved in, that's also where we stored all of our boxes and stuff. I distinctively remember going down there with my friend, let's call her Sarah for now, to go play with the wood dollhouse we had. It was one of those easy to build ones where you could slide all the pieces together and all the dolls were made out of wood chunks. But it was a lot of fun as a kid. Sarah made a comment about how creepy it was downstairs and even pointed out to me that there was a little door leaning against the wall. It was covered in chipped pink paint with 2 stick figures holding hands. But something always really bothered me about it. And I, to this day, have no idea why. We were playing for a bit before she turned to me and said something like, "What if there's a creepy ghost or something down here?" I didn't really think much of it at first and told her not to be stupid. But then the dollhouse windows creaked open. Mind you, these things were as tough as nails, and it was pretty hard to pry open the little windows to look inside the house. So it couldn't have been the wind or something. I just kind of stared before looking at my friend, and I was not having fun anymore. I told her to knock it off because somehow in my kid brain, she was the one that caused the windows to open. Before we could start yelling at each other about it, I swear to God that the door she pointed out fell right onto the ground with a loud bang. It scared the crap out of us because 1, there was no way it could have fallen without being pushed over. It was a heavy door. 2, it was leaning against the wall. The way it fell meant someone would have had to lift it and push it away from the wall. I never ran so fast out of that basement with my friend, and no matter how many times I told my parents and sisters, no one believed me. I eventually let it go, but recently my mother brought it up about times we got scared as kids. and she recalled the scary basement we always talked about. Something was really weird about that house, and there were plenty of other creepy, weird things that happened to me and my siblings. Almost 100% sure the place is haunted. I've got way more stories of that place, and it still bugs me to no end today. It is often said that children can see far more than their adult counterparts. Was this a case of an otherworldly being, or simply the imaginings of a young girl and her friend? Our next story is a double shot of terror in one hit. A few years ago, when I was 16, 17, I worked in a restaurant as a waitress. There were two locations, one in my town, which I'll call Restaurant A, and one in a town about 30 minutes away, Restaurant B. I should mention that Restaurant B is located in a rougher area, and many of my co-workers weren't from the best of backgrounds. Nonetheless, they were sweet people, and I trusted them. I was trusted as a manager on Thursdays at Restaurant B, which usually meant I was the cashier, server, manager, and the only other person would be a cook, which I'll call Dave. In the restaurant, there is a front glass door that customers use and a back wood door, no window in the door. We used to take out trash and such. One day, we had no business, and I was in the kitchen with Dave and another cook that was about to leave. We're standing around talking, with Dave right in front of the back door, the other cook to the side of the door, and me about 5 feet away from Dave in line with the door. He had a bag of trash in his hand, and he was going to take it out. He opened the door while still facing me and talking, and behind the door was a person. It was clearly a person in a grey t-shirt, jeans, and a black hat. I saw him for a split second, long enough to know someone was there, and then Dave saw my face and turned around, which blocked my view. And the guy was gone. The other cook saw my face turn white as a sheet when Dave had opened the door, and joked that I looked like I had just seen a ghost. Oh, the irony. While Dave started looking around outside to see what I could have seen, I started actually panicking. I have severe anxiety and panic disorder. And Dave was trying to calm me down, but he also seemed really freaked out. He asked me what I had saw. I told him I saw someone. I described the person, and what he told me next will never leave me. Dave started crying and ran out the door with his phone in his hand. He was outside for nearly half an hour, and when he came back in, he was calmer, but still nervous. He told me that roughly 10 years ago, he and his friend were in a horrible car accident which ended in his friend dying. He told me the person I described standing outside of the door was wearing the exact outfit his friend had died in. And apparently, I wasn't the first person to see the ghost of his friend. Dave told me that whenever something were to happen to anyone in his family, his friend would show up to either him or his family. For example, one time he saw the ghost of his friend, and literally a minute later his phone rang and he found out his father had just suffered a massive heart attack. When he went out of the door, he was calling his family to make sure everyone was okay. Luckily, they were. But not even 2 days later, he found out his wife had miscarried. As if that wasn't weird enough, the same night I saw the ghost, something else weird happened that I believe was paranormal, but I also understand could have been paranoia. I was up front at the register, still shaken up, and a huge crow was hovering outside of the front door. It was so weird. It literally was just flying in place. It suddenly flew away, and then a really strange looking man approached the door and opened it wide, but didn't enter. He had the creepiest smile on his face the entire time. Moments later, the crow was back, and it almost came in the restaurant. but another customer swatted it away. The man literally turned around and left, didn't order anything, and didn't say a word. I know it sounds unbelievable, but I'm just hoping someone reads this and understands that what I went through is real, because everyone I know doesn't believe in the paranormal and thinks I was just imagining things. I find the crow part to be merely a curiosity, but Dave's friend showing up I see as a good thing. It tells me that his friend still has his back and is looking out for him, even after all that time. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up below and subscribe for new videos twice a week. And as always, thank you for watching. Remember, it's always scarier when it's real. Good night.